You know what's coming.
Your daily deep dive into everything Utah Jazz.
It's time.
All season long and even in the off season. It's Jazz Daily with JJ and Alex on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. Thanks for being with us on the show, everybody. Hey, your Utah Jazz are taking on the Sacramento Kings tonight. That's going to be here at Delta Center. Tip-off 7 o'clock. Pre-game going to be right here on the KSL Sports Zone, your radio home of the Utah Jazz. Coming up at 6, so you'll be able to hear that as well. Our program, as always, is brought to you by the good folks at G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs that quick, tasty, and nutritious boost. And yes, JJ, it is a Jazz game day. So let's kick off the cut right here at the top of the hour as we always do. Let's jump right in.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, this portion of the show brought to you by the good folks at Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com for all your trusted local financial needs in retirement. Going to be chatting here in just a moment, hopefully with Eric Spyropoulos, who, of course, writes for the Utah Jazz and NBA.com. He also fills in periodically on the pregame shows as well. We'll get to Eric in just a moment here. But, JJ, the Sacramento Kings coming to town. This Utah Jazz team, of course, now 14-40. Does that sound right?
14-43.
14-43. That's good enough for.
Don't miss those 3 losses.
That's good
Don't
enough.
give them back.
Well, of course, because we
need those.
That's good enough for tied for the second, tied for second for the second worst. I mean, tied for the second worst record in the league.
Correct.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
Ping pong ball wise, it's the same as it would be if you were dead last, right?
You want to finish in the bottom 3.
All right.
To get that around 25% chance.
Okay. All right. So this Sacramento Kings team coming to town and the Utah Jazz, I think that you're seeing the things that you love to see, right? And I've been hearing all day during our Jazz updates, hearing from Coach Hardy, hearing from Kyle Filipowski. I mean, Flip has been having a great year when it comes to development because he's getting those minutes, and they're making him play multiple positions. They're making him grow up right before our eyes. Joining us on the program right now, Eric Spyropoulos. He writes for NBA.com and the Utah Jazz, and, of course, fills in on the pregame shows right here on the KSL Sports Zone, the home of the Utah Jazz. Eric, thanks for being with us on the program, man. How are things?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, set this one up for us. The Kings coming into town. How's the trade deadline treated them now with the departure of De'Aaron Fox? Where's that team sitting right now as they come into Delta Center tonight?
Yeah, they're still kind of looking for that consistency. They're 4-4 since the trade deadline. Obviously, Zach LaVine, huge addition. He had a huge 42-point game on Monday against the Hornets. But this is a team that's still looking kind of for an identity, I think. And they're still looking. Sorry, out of breath running these stairs at Delta Center.
Gotta take that. You gotta take that service elevator. Come on, do the fat guy's choice.
Guys, you gotta get your steps in, though. You know,
I appreciate that you're getting that in. Good for you, man.
Exercise before I sit down to do the radio show later today for the whole hour. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I think that obviously they still have most of that same core that people are familiar with. Domantas Sabonis is still grabbing every single rebound. DeMar DeRozan is still hitting those mid-range jumpers. But this team doesn't seem to have a consistent, streak going. They're still, looking for that on both ends of the floor.
Well, in looking at the Jazz direction, the other night, that team showed a lot of fight. And I think that's what we're getting out of this team right now. As you're watching this team, you followed them all season long. What is the thing that stands out to you about this team and their growth? Because I think that's what we're looking for out of these young players. We know the situation. We know the assignment with where the team is with the draft lottery and their record. But we want to see growth out of these young players. Are we seeing the kind of growth at the rate that they want to see it at?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to say absolutely yes. I mean, Kyle Filipowski's coming off, what I think is his best game of his NBA career so far. Isaiah Collier obviously has been maybe the story of the season, averaging over 9 assists per game in February. And even Cody Williams, I think, the past 2 games has shown a few glimpses, just not really overthinking as much and just kind of playing off of his instincts. But I think those 3 in particular, obviously there are guys like Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, that have had ups and downs this season. But overall, I think you have to say that the player development is on the right track. And, the final 25 games or so of the season, I think you're going to look for more of those bright spots.
You brought up Cody Williams. I think a lot of us look and say, hey, 10th overall pick for the Jazz in that first round, and you see all this development off these other guys, and certainly kind of doing the going up and down between the G League and the big team. Everybody obviously has been waiting to see some of that development. What has worked so well these last couple of games that Jazz fans are pretty encouraged by to see Cody Williams going out there and getting some good minutes in and seeing that development going?
Well, I think, like Will Hardy said the other night, it starts on the defensive end. I mean, obviously with his length, he can make life difficult for opposing guards and wings. And I think when he's able to kind of, lock in on that end of the floor and get some stops, that kind of helps him, I think, on the other end of the floor with his confidence. And I think when he's playing confident, that's when he's able to, he's not creating off the dribble that much. He's not going to be asked to do that much with the ball in his hands. It's more about, he's in the corner. If he catches that pass, does he go up for the shot quickly, or does he have an aggressive closeout? And I think that's what's been the key over the past two games. Not necessarily overthinking things on the offensive end, but I think it all starts with him being able to get stops and disruptions on the defensive end.
Keyonte George has been a different player since going to the bench. Maybe he should have started playing badly when he went to the bench, so he wouldn't be coming off the bench anymore. But I ask you that because it looks like it's possible he could be carving out a role for himself in the NBA as a sixth man because it's gone that well. Why have you watched him and you're looking at this situation? Why has this worked out so well for Keyonte George and made him better?
I think one of the keys, obviously, is him matching up against opposing bench units. I think that gives him a little bit more of an advantage than him in the starting lineup. The other thing I think is that the context of who he's playing with. Like I mentioned, Isaiah Collier has been one of the best playmakers and setup men in the league over the past month or so, and also Kyle Filipowski, his ability to play make from a big position. We've seen them have some good chemistry in terms of Keyonte getting good buckets off of cuts that Flip can find him. So I think, he's feeling a little bit more settled into the role. He's going up against opposing bench units, and also the context of who he's playing with has allowed him to get some good looks, which I think is the best helping his confidence.
Eric Spyropoulos joining us here on the program as we get you ready for this Utah Jazz basketball game tonight with the Sacramento Kings coming to town. And Eric, sounds like you're going to be doing some radio pregame duties and get this thing going. What do you expect to see out of this team the next little stretch here? Like, what are the games that you look at and you go, okay, these are games that are I think we look at these games like they're all the same, is what I'm saying. And I think that's not necessarily the case. You just go, you just develop, and it's just another team coming into town. But what does this next stretch look like for this Jazz team?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got an interesting stretch coming up because you have a couple of games against some veteran teams that are kind of in the thick of the playoff run or expecting to be a playoff team, like the Sacramento team, Minnesota coming to town on Friday. But you also have a couple of games against some other kind of young teams that are quote unquote, rebuilding or whatever you want to use the term. You got New Orleans coming to town on Sunday, and then you kick off an East Coast road trip next Wednesday against the Wizards. So I think there's a good mix of competition level over the next week or so. And obviously you want to see how this Jazz young core, especially in those games against New Orleans and Washington, how they perform against other teams that are kind of on that same trajectory.
Kyle Filipowski had 20 points and 11 rebounds the other night, and a double-double in 36 minutes, a 20-10 double-double at that. And also we had 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. What are we learning about Kyle Filipowski right now?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I think is my main takeaway over this stretch is how playing at the center position has been able to kind of unlock his full offensive skill set. I think the second thing is he's hitting his 3-ball really well. I think he's at, around 53% from 3 in February. And when that shot is falling, obviously that's, he's not going to shoot that over the course of the season. But if he can hit that, at a above average rate, then, you have defenders having to come up to him at the perimeter. And all that does is really open up his passing. Like you mentioned, 5 assists the other night. I mean, he's consistently been able to find cutters or shooters when he has the ball in his hands. So I think he's been playing a little bit more. His role is more defined as a center, whether it's starting if there's injuries or as the backup center. And I think that allows him to showcase his full arsenal on the offensive end of the floor. And then again, I think Will Hardy praised him the other night of just like he's being really aggressive on the boards. And that's obviously what they need when he's playing at center. He's a little bit, not that he's undersized, but there's a lot of big, tough guys that he's going up against. And he's really impressed on the glass as well.
Eric, one of the things that, of course, we talk about these young guys and the development, and then there are, of course, all the veterans that are on this squad that the coaching staff rely quite a bit on to be able to influence a lot of these guys in the locker room. On the injury report, though, tonight you got John Collins out. You got Lauri Markkanen out. Obviously, Colin Sexton's still not back from the ankle injury. But are we going to start to just see multiples of these stacked together? I know that people look and they go, okay, we're going to see this in the last third of the season. A lot of Lauri Markkanen outs. A lot of John Collins is out. But what does that look like for the rest of the year in terms of how much they're going to still be leaning on these guys to get some minutes and try to make that balance work?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it will be a balance because you still want these vets out there to continue to show, display the right behavior, the right approach to the game, just kind of that veteran leadership. That it's much easier to convey that veteran presence and that leadership when you're actually going through things and playing in games and going through your routines. I think, but at the same time, they want to be strategic in terms of for example, Lowry's back has been bothering him pretty much all year. From the beginning of the year, he missed, a week and a half with those back spasms. And so I think it's, in a season like this, when you're focused on player development, you want to have that right balance of still getting the vet presence and still having it, hit the young guys in the right way, but also not necessarily doing that at the expense of the health of some of these vets.
We all are fans of the NBA. We all love following the league, and the league always delivers on drama. And we had more drama last night as Luka got to play the Mavs for the first time last night, and we were all had our eyes on it. What if you made it the whole situation? I'm curious to get your take on it. All the stuff the Mavs are trying to put all this stuff out about Luka. He's not this and that, and to try to make it look better. But it just, especially after last night, it's just what were the Mavs thinking? I mean, it's just unbelievable that this trade even happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. There's never going to be anything that really could come out, I think, especially from a Mavericks point of view, that would make me change my opinion on the trade, or I think pretty much everyone's opinion on the trade. I think, at a certain point, it's almost like it's just kind of doubling down on the issue when you keep, leaking out some of these reports or rumors about why you felt justified in making the trade. But at the end of the day, trading a 25-year-old superstar in his prime who is, on pace to win potentially multiple MVPs down the road. Just again, it doesn't really ever make sense, especially when you trade him for a guy who obviously Anthony Davis is a great player, but 31, turning 32, the timelines don't work. And so, yeah, I mean, nothing that comes out has swayed my opinion on the trade, and I don't think anything that could come out would sway my opinion.
Eric Spyropoulos, you can catch him tonight doing some pregame duties and getting yourself ready for this Utah Jazz Sacramento Kings game over at Delta Center. Eric, thanks for hanging out with us, man. We hope to have you in the future.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There you go. I'm excited about these young guys. It is hard to look at the injury report and to not think, oh boy, this is going to be a pattern. Lauri Markkanen, sore back.
Well,
you're like, okay.
That back's going to feel pretty good on Friday when they play the Timberwolves.
Oh, see?
Promise. Take it to the bank.
John Collins?
John Collins is going to feel a lot better
also,
by Friday.
Sore back.
Yeah.
What do you have? Sore back? Put me down for one, too.
Yeah. No, they'll be playing on Friday. The Minnesota Timberwolves, of course, the Jazz own their pick, and they're right on that line.
Look, that's one of those games that everybody wants a W in. Come on.
The Jazz win that game, they help their cause. Can you imagine the Jazz getting 2 lottery picks in this draft?
Oh, man.
2 shots at it.
Go everybody versus Minnesota.
So the draft odds, right? So the top 3.
See, I hate this.
The top 3 get 14%.
Yes.
So let's say that the Timberwolves were the 13th or 14th. It adds another 1%. Who won it last year?
See, but that's about winning it. And I more look at it like, let's say the Jazz get the 2nd overall pick or the 3rd overall pick, and then they get the 7th overall pick or the 9th overall pick.
That's not possible.
Well, I thought that they get 2.
If the Timberwolves were 13 or 14, if they moved up, it would mean they moved up into the top 4.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. But still,
you can't move up to 7.
But let's say you get the 7th, or let's say you get the 2nd overall pick, or even the 1st overall pick.
How about you get 1 and 2?
Okay. Let's say you get the 1st overall pick. Or let's just go with the.
Let's just having fun here.
I know. Let's just go with the non.
Hey, it's poop for Coop.
Hey, it is the lottery. They call it the lottery for a reason. I also like to pretend about things I would love to buy if I won the lottery. Okay, But let's say that it's just even. Let's say the Jazz get the number 1 overall pick, and then they get the, what'd you say, 13th?
Yeah.
14th? I mean, man, what a draft, right?
That would be great.
Get Yegor Demin at 13, Cooper Flagg at 1.
Well, I mean, you look at they got Keontae at 16.
Yeah.
They got Cody Williams at 10.
I mean, you got Isaiah Collier at 29.
They got Kyle Filipowski at 32.
Yeah, man. Come
so
on.
There's guys to be had, and this draft is better than last year's draft.
What did I tell you? We're seeing the report now. Ashtrays in the armchairs of the airplane of the Patriots.
They're flying a plane from the 70s.
I was gonna say I can't even imagine what that model would be that they're flying around in. Man, I mean, good for the maintenance crew. They've been doing a hell of a
TWA.
job. It's a Northwest flight. And I'm trying to think of all the different brands that have gone out over the years. My heavens. All right, Jazz, and you got the Jazz, you got the Kings, and you have Lauri Markkanen out. You got John Collins out. When did they say they were going to reevaluate Colin Sexton? That's a guy you'd see. That's one of those guys that, by the way, Colin Sexton, to me, he's the guy that's in that perfect place where you have that veteran status of, being able to help these young guys out, but he brings a different energy to the floor, and I think that that's one of those guys that if you're a young dude and you see how a guy like Colin Sexton plays this game, that's a huge one. That for me, I want to see when Colin Sexton comes back from that ankle injury, and from a developmental standpoint, I love having that guy on the floor with some of these dudes. But again, every night that you have a bunch of guys out, it's more opportunities for those young guys to develop. So we'll see what happens tonight with the Jazz and the Kings. So that's coming up at 6 o'clock. You're going to get your pregame, 7 o'clock, your tip. We've got more to go right around the corner. We've got more to update you on. I do want to chat a little bit more about what this Lakers this Luka and Mav situation is, because now that they had the game in the books, I know that Luka is like, yeah, I'm just glad it's over. Got it over with. I'm like, boy, this is never going to be over with. You are, for the life of when you're playing for this Los Angeles Lakers team, when you go to Dallas, when Dallas comes to L.A., if somebody associated with that trade anywhere, when Nico Harris is the GM of the Washington Wizards and they come into town, into L.A., they're going to show him in the crowd. They're going to show it. This will never be over. And that's why I think it's even more fascinating because of that. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to go. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
You know what's coming.
Your daily deep dive into everything Utah Jazz.
It's time.
All season long and even in the offseason. It's Jazz Daily with JJ and Alex on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. I had a proud dad moment. My son came in and was like, I've been watching a ton of SNL.
Oh.
Like the old school SNL.
I dream of a day my kids come in.
He's like, dude,
Dad.
He's like, I was like, what are you watching? He's like, I was watching the seasons 41 and 42, I think, which is like Sudeikis, Bill Hader.
Yeah.
But there were some episodes in there, and he was doing with me. The Test Brothers obviously just reminded me of this, right? But it reminded me. Remember when you would go to school and you would just relate the skit that you saw on Saturday night to the best of your ability?
Yeah.
And you and your friends would just keep repeating those things.
Yes.
I mean, hell, you and I were singing "Lunch Lady."
Yeah.
That our producer Alex needs to go back and start watching some of those archives. All right. It's not just SNL 50. So at some point, what do you think that was? Probably SNL 29, 30? No, 24?
Not even that. Like what? So like 93, 94?
Yeah, so been like...
so you're looking at maybe, an 18, 19, 20 season.
Boy, you're old, dude.
I am old.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, Sandler and Farley and David Spade.
Yeah, so who?
Phil Hartman and Dana Carvey and Mike Myers. Those are the years I really loved watching.
I didn't actually know this, but... Dana Carvey and Mike Myers, haven't spoken in 25 years.
Isn't that crazy?
And it was all over the fact that Dana Carvey, I had no idea of this. I just saw this in an interview not that long ago. But Dr. Evil was Carvey's impersonation that he used to do of Lorne Michaels. Backward pinky and everything.
Yes.
And Carvey was pissed. And like, dude, you took my whole character and basically made an empire out of it, right?
Pretty much.
Not only that, Wayne's World. Wayne, the character, obviously, and that character is Mike Myers' character. You know, that was something he brought that he did in his auditions. It was just a guy. He was like a dude, but they wanted to give him a second guy. So when they were making Wayne's World, Mike Myers insisted that Dana Carvey not be in it. Like, hey, we're making this movie. It's just about Wayne, though.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why those guys aren't.
He didn't
friends.
want Garth.
No.
In
He
the
didn't.
movie?
No, he didn't want him and he didn't want him in the skit at the very beginning. And then when the movie started getting made, they were like, "No way."
He just wanted it to be about Wayne Campbell.
Yes,
Dude, Wayne Campbell's
There's
got to
no-
have a buddy,
Of course.
or it's not funny. I mean, every talk show has a sidekick.
But Wayne is the main guy. We knew that.
Of course.
And
That's the whole bit. It's a
and
talk
his
show.
lovable, sweet, like soft-spoken, small-mouthed drummer.
I mean, this was in
buddy,
the early '90s, and every talk show had a sidekick.
Party on Wayne, and that's it. It just ends there.
David Letterman had Paul Schaefer.
Party on Wayne.
Johnny
Party on
Carson had Ed McMahon.
I know. And Mike Myers did not want any of that noise. So I think there's a reason you don't see Mike Myers
I've heard
tied up in a lot of those things.
Mike Myers has fractured a lot of relationships.
Well,
with
like,
people.
was he at SNL 50, the reunion? I don't think so.
Yeah, he was.
Was he?
Yeah, he did the coffee talk.
Oh, that's right.
What's her name?
Yeah. Coffee talk.
Yeah.
I'm getting verklempt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd show
Talk
up.
amongst yourselves.
They were there.
Okay.
Hopefully they're on speaking terms again, but
Did they do Wayne's World?
no, they did not.
Yeah. There you go.
And I guess we're not getting Wayne's World 3. That's sad.
Ow.
I've been waiting for a long, long time.
Oh, well, Alice Cooper, obviously, he could come back. Or is he still with us? He is. Don't worry about it. He is.
He must drink the blood of children or something because he's still with us at age 77.
He's also
Keith Richards was at the SNL 50.
Yeah, I can't believe that guy's still with anybody. He's barely
What?
with himself. Yeah, are you kidding? My heavens.
All the rock stars
know.
that have died over the
I
years, and
know.
that dude's still kicking?
All right, so listen.
He's 81,
I did want to
and
bring
he has
this
no
up, though.
liver.
Yeah, he's a robot at this point. Hey, so I wanted to bring something up about did you see so the 76ers are having I don't know, would you say that they're having is it them or the Pelicans that you look at and you go, I can't believe how
It's
awful.
the Sixers by a mile.
Right. Because of the roster that they have and the things that they're made up of, they have a
They just spent a fortune on Paul
Yeah.
George.
And
they
then
were
they have
supposed to win the East.
and they have an MVP, on that roster, and obviously
Tyrese Maxey, they just signed him to an extension. They were supposed to be loaded and ready to go.
How much Project P with Paul George podcast have you been consuming this year? A lot? Would you say between probably once a week you listen to it? Probably not, right? But don't worry because Podcast P, hosted by Paul George, had this statement on the internet today. Did you see this?
Yes.
No secret that this season, up to this point, man, it just hasn't been what we envisioned. I know my goal when I first signed with Philadelphia was to bring a championship to these amazing fans here. I still remain positive about that. Do you? And that's still the case where I'm coming from. With that being said,
Oh, he did it. That being said,
after prayerfully considering, no, he didn't say the prayerfully part, but he did say, with that being said, after talking with my family and with God, I want to let the Podcast P family know that after today's episode with Dwight, interviewed Dwight Howard, I plan to take a break from the pod just to focus on getting my body right, getting mentally right, and to help this squad make a push toward our final finish of the season and give ourselves a chance to be in contention to compete for a championship. He's not talking about 2025, 20. He's talking about.
he knows
talking
how
about-
many games are left in the season, right?
Okay, yeah. I won't front. This is my
Look.
favorite. That's my favorite quote. I won't front the desire to get back to shooting in person with my guys as well as in front of all of you. This hiatus as well. I look forward to us being back together again and doing this once again. But on that note, let's lock in and get ready to do some big things in store into the future. In the meantime, y'all be easy from Podcast P. I won't front. I hadn't heard somebody say they weren't going to front in quite some time, JJ.
The Sixers are 20-37.
What? So they're not
Joel Embiid is not healthy.
maybe never going to come back.
But
However,
they're only 2.5 back of the Bulls for the 10 spot,
That
which
is-
would get them in a play-in and give them a
no, they're
chance.
not. What are they, 20 and 37?
They're 20-37.
That'd be a freaking joke.
They
if
have a
team that's-
35% win percentage.
If a team gets the 10th spot in the playoffs and they are 17 games behind or below 500, what are we talking about? What are we doing?
I don't know.
The East, when we make jokes like this all the time about the East, because you always have a couple of.
There's only 6 teams in the East with the winning record.
I know. It's like, I know. And what's their excuse? Oh, man, such good parity out here in the East. I think it's a bunch of bad basketball. Right now, the 76ers have no business being bad, and yet here we are, 17 games under 500.
You take away those top 6 teams, and I agree with you. It is bad basketball. The Magic have some young stars, but obviously there's some injuries that have really hampered them.
The world champion Celtics.
Trae Young doesn't move the meter for me.
No.
If he was as great, I mean, he's kind of like that Karl Anthony Towns thing with, I'm told a guy's an all-star, I'm told he's this and that, but his team can't win. So what am I supposed to think, right? So
it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cavs, Celtics, I'll even throw the Knicks in there for real, and I think obviously the Bucks have won a championship before, and with Lillard, I think that they could be a factor in the playoffs. But that's 4 teams in the East. You go to the West, like, it wouldn't surprise me if the Suns find a way to get in, right? Because they have the dudes, but the West is loaded. It's not even close. But yeah, the Sixers are dead meat. Like, why didn't he do that in December?
I just think it's so funny because you know that the management probably said, "Hey, look, you can't keep putting more effort into your podcast."
It's been a bad look.
Yeah. You can't keep putting more effort into this podcast, man. See, this is the kind of stuff, and all this is to be said, like, look, the Jazz are not in a great spot winning and losing wise, right? But
by design.
But you aren't having these discussions, and you're not having these issues. And you don't have aging stars that have become bigger than your fan base that are getting on there in their podcasts and saying all this stuff while they're not playing and while your team's losing, and they go, hey man, you got
Lauri Markkanen's not doing a podcast while he's out with whatever injury he's got.
Right. Sore back.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever that is right now.
But fine, listen, do a podcast, whatever, and then go play. Well, you can do whatever you want. I'm not saying the guys can't do a podcast, but don't sit there and like it's almost March. And you're the Sixers, and you were supposed to be a contender, and now you're going to say, okay, now I'm going to lock in.
Think about how dumb it sounds that he had to do it with that being said about putting a pause on his podcast.
Oh, my gosh.
See, Jazz fans, Walker Kessler's back tonight. He is, right? Yeah, he's back in the lineup. Walker Kessler's back, and I know we all loved seeing Flip go 20-11 the other night. That's great. But I think more importantly, I mean, first of all, how awesome is it that he was 4 for 4 from 3, Flip, and that's great. But and I disagree with Eric, who we had on just a few minutes ago, Eric Spyropoulos, who obviously covers his team very closely. I think the story of the season has been Walker Kessler.
I think so too.
I don't think it's been. I think he brought it up that it was Isaiah Collier, which I think is a great story. It's definitely out of right field. But, like, this was make or break. This was Jazz fans wringing their hands going, what is he going to do? And Walker Kessler has become the guy that you were hoping for, and that's all you can hope for, right?
If
like, just go,
Walker
thank heavens.
repeated this year what he did last year, he would not get an extension.
And not only that, you would be like, where are we as a franchise here? It would make you even wonder even more about the development of this team going forward, because then you're having to find not just Kyle Filipowski. I mean, the reality is that Kyle Filipowski and Walker Kessler are two very different dudes.
They can play at the court at the same time, 100%.
Yes.
There's a size difference and athleticism difference. They're different players. They don't even have to play the same position. So what you found in Walker Kessler is your center moving forward. And I think that there's a lot of teams that are going to start looking for a Walker Kessler type in the draft because of the way Walker Kessler plays the game of basketball at the center position. Now, Walker doesn't go out and spread the floor by shooting threes. He doesn't have to do that, but he is impacting the game with his rebounds and his block shots, and he's very athletic and he can run the floor. That's what you want out of a big man. Walker's been great this year. The Jazz have their center for the conceivable future.
All right.
And they know that now for sure. Now they can figure out everything else.
Let's take a break. We'll come back.
He doesn't drink beer and hookah.
Oh, how dare. Almost at this point you're looking for guys who are, you're like,
it's like Luka drinks beer and hookah.
Like,
how about the other 15 guys on the roster start doing that?
So the GM started asking, what are your thoughts on beer and hookah? I'm for it. Okay. All right.
But what are the Mavs doing?
I don't know. I told you, character assassination. Here it comes.
So you telling me the Dallas Mavericks traded a generational player because he drinks beer and smokes hookah?
Well, here's my favorite part. Was he going? So if he put down a couple of beers and the hookah went away, was he a 35 points a game guy? Is that what you're telling me? He's the best player on the planet, not the second best player on the planet.
How stupid do the Mavericks think everybody is?
Pretty dumb.
They just messed up.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll get you ready for the Utah Jazz and the Sacramento Kings. That's all coming up in our best and worst next. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us on the show, everybody. Let me see here, JJ, a little house cleaning. This portion of the show brought to you by an amazing selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. And now into the family of Doug Smith dealerships is Mitsubishi and American Fork. Go check it out for yourself. Nobody knows cars like Doug. Best is Shohei Ohtani. Going to be making his spring training debut. It's going to be against the Angels coming up on Friday. So
awkward.
The $800 million man, or whatever it is that we're saying that he is now, $700 million man is going to be making that debut against his former team.
Looks like he's going to be a designated hitter. I don't know if he's pitching yet. Probably won't be pitching at all.
And then the worst, Rob Gronkowski is still being asked if he's going to play football for the New England Patriots. Yes, not as a joke.
I just watched him on TV. He's eating pizza on a couch. He's not playing football.
I know. Don't keep bothering the man. Let him stay retired.
He's living with Sam Elliott. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, why would Gronk want to go back to the NFL? He's living with Sam Elliott and eating pizza. I wouldn't go back to work.
Nope.
Let Sam Elliott pay the rent.
Let that USAA money keep flowing in. Come on. Let's go. With all that USAA money, he can afford.
I'm a veteran. I'm already in.
He can afford Geico since he can't be with.
Why don't you go join the Army, Rob? They can get
isn't
USAA.
That the irony? Isn't that the irony?
Yeah.
He can afford it. Look, he's got all this money coming in from USAA. Can't be a member. There you go. What do we have here? I do want to say the Jazz tonight. This Utah Jazz team taking on the Sacramento Kings. Give me your thoughts here, JJ, right before we get out here. 10 seconds. Let's go.
The Kings are mid, but the Jazz are going to give them an effort tonight. I think that's going to make it really close, but they're going to miss a three at the end to win.
The Kings are mid, but the Jazz are midder?
The Jazz are trying to be midder.
I love it. Okay, going to get your pregame coming up here right at top of the hour. So stay tuned right here.
That was terrible analysis. Sorry.
Come on.
I'll do better tomorrow.
The KSL Sports Zone. Stay with us. More to go.